Today we are going to talk about the Gladiator rack. So this is the new rack. I originally did have one of these ones over there. I think this is the muscle rack. You can see there is a difference between the post size and looks a lot different. So this Gladiator one is definitely heavy duty. It is no joke. It's very similar to the Husky. Or there's a few differences. The first difference is that it has this Gladiator, I don't know, pushed out metal bit, and it has these, triangle things. It looks very industrial compared to the Husky, which doesn't have any brand name on it. It's a little shiny, but also it's kind of matte. I got this one specifically because each brand has different dimensions, and I really needed one that was 18 inches wide to fit and not cut off the window right there. So that is why I went with the Gladiator rack for this section here of the fish room. So this Gladiator rack is the one that is 5 feet this way, 18 deep, and 72 tall. It is exactly 5 feet across, but the sides here. So you can see here, this little, the bracket piece that hooks onto the post, that does stick out a little bit on each side. So it is more like 18 and a quarter. Similar to the Husky shelf, the Gladiator rack also has 2.5-inch posts right here. So the usable shelf space for this rack in particular, about 55 inches. There is one modification I made to this rack, which is painting the grid black. So the original color the grid comes with, or I guess the rack comes with, is this silver one, and there's black because I painted the bottom. Ran out of spray paint, but this works for you guys. The metal grid itself is a little smooth, I would say, without the spray paint. So maybe there is a coating on this, but I didn't want to take any chances. Water does splash if you don't have lids. I don't know how much you can see there, but the bubbles are popping from the sponge filters, and water does splash, and occasionally you get like a big pop, and then it could go over here, which is why I paint my wood so to protect it from getting moldy. And the Husky rack does have a painted metal grid, more or less can withstand a few splashes. Like if I rubbed my thumb up against this metal and kind of smelled my thumb, it has a faint metallic-y smell. So maybe there is a coating on this, but I did not want to risk it, so that is why I painted the rest of the grids black. So it does not come with black grids, it comes with silver grids. For the layout and shape of the grid and the metal pieces that comprise it, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, here's a better example. You can see here, these are all uniform in distance from these bars here, the space they're making in between, and then for some reason they put like a few right close to each other. So yeah, I don't know why that is. If you were going to put a tank on here straight as it is, you can lay it how I've laid it, which is basically this middle bars, they're the ones facing up. So then you just have a nice flat surface to put the tanks on, more or less, until you get to the edge here where there is a double piece of, or double little bars here. All the stuff pertaining to the grid does fit nicely. It has this little indentation on the shelf where the grid fits. I was kind of shaking them around a bit. So this one does move around quite a bit, front to back, side to side. Similar with the bottom one. This top one, I'm not sure why, but it doesn't want to move as much. So this seems to be similar to the amount of looseness or moving around as the Husky brand. It just maybe depends on how the grid was made, because for some reason this one doesn't move around as much, but the other two do move around. So if we zoom in here, so this is where usually the wood would lay on, and I don't know how well you could see, but it is actually like angled inwards, and this, because of the coating of this paint that they use, it's quite slippery and shiny. You know, you can see things will slip and slide. So that is kind of an issue if you're gonna put wood just flat on top of these this brace right here, like I was going to do. I was having issues with it kind of wanting to slide down and fall into this this little ridge right there, because it's not exactly flat. So what I did is I made these notches on the wood. So now if it wants to slip, it's gonna hit this back piece, and if it wants to slip forward, it's gonna hit this post also. So that's what I did for all of the shelf wood that I use, because I don't put my tanks directly on these racks. I didn't read the FAQ for the Gladiator rack, but I did for the Husky, and they say don't put aquariums on there because they're not responsible if you put uneven pressure on the rack and you break your rack. But yeah, so all that aside, that's why I use the wood. Interestingly enough, for this Gladiator rack, there is 2 braces for each rack, and they're not, you can't decide where they're gonna go. There's a specific hole that you kind of push and slide things into. I just wanted to point out that this one has 2 braces, and it's 5 inches shorter in length than this Husky one, which only has 1 brace. So I don't know if that means anything to you guys. In my mind, the more middle braces, the more secure it feels. Another nice thing about this Gladiator rack over the Husky rack is that these middle braces are very secure. Like, I can try to wiggle it around and it's not moving at all. So that is a nice thing. The Husky rack was a little wiggly, but with the weight of fish tanks and stuff, I'm sure it's not gonna move anymore. But yeah, this one is definitely not moving around. When you put it in, you have to squish like these 2 edges and get bits to go in the holes. Then when you release, it slides to the side. So that's a pretty good design to keep this from moving around at all, since it's being held together by pressure. And I didn't notice this before, but there are little holes right here. Don't know what those holes are for, but just an extra like little thing to zip tie stuff to. Following the topic about the middle bracket, similar to the other Husky rack behind me, you will have these little nubs kind of poking down wherever there's a middle brace. So now instead of getting one in the middle, like for the rack behind me, you do get 2 sets. So you get like the set here, and then you get the set over there. I don't know, they don't seem too bad to me. I don't think you can really hurt yourself on them. But if you're curious about how much they're poking out, very little. I'd say that's like 1/8. It looks a little better than the Husky rack. So the middle bracket is where that thing is sticking out, and that is just as a quick comparison, I believe this was like 1/4 of an inch or something. Yeah, a little more than 1/4 inch, I would say. So yeah, at least the middle bracket bits are not sticking out or sticking down as much, and they are rounded. Another similarity between the two racks is these like metal braces here. So there's a diagonal and then there's one going there horizontal. So these braces come as is, like they are welded to the sides right here. So there's definitely no moving those. I don't know how well you can see this. Sorry about the mess, but what I'm trying to point out is the thickness of each rack right here. So like that one versus this one. This one is 3 3/4. That's the Husky rack, and the Gladiator rack looks to be a tiny bit thinner actually. So I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking they were the same. Actually, yeah, it is a little thinner. It's just a tad bit over 3 inches. And the other one is 3 3/4, so a little closer to 4 inches. Why would the thickness of this middle bracket matter? You get to save room on rack space. There's only so much space that you can use until you run out of, I guess, post. So the thinner this bracket here, the more room you will have to put your arm in. So I could like put my whole arm in and like I'll bump it a little bit, but it's whatever. You know, you want to make sure you leave yourself enough space. On the topic of lighting, I'm going to assume that we're all going to try to hide the light in the space under here for each rack below. So if we were to do that, let's just see how much space that we're working with here. So it's going to be a little tricky. I would say about 13 inches. You can go a little more if you push the light further out, you know, this way. Or if you wanted to put the light diagonal, that's something you could do also. But 13 inches wide is not very much space to work with, and those are the end pieces. If I was to try to put lighting in this middle section here, which we have a lot more space to work with, so like starting from right there, we are looking at about 25.5, maybe a little bit less, but that's a little bit of a better size to find an aquarium light for than 13 inches. But you know, if there's a will, there's a way. We'll figure out how to illuminate the, maybe not that side, but you know, under the bottom of each of these little pieces. Something I was just looking at now is that there is a lip right here under each rack shelf, so that's pretty cool. You can, I don't know, maybe there's something you guys have an idea for, like maybe you can hide the pipe, like a PVC pipe for auto water change system back here, since this piece right there is, let me grab a tape measure. It's about 1.5, a little bit less. So if you had PVC pipe, it might fit there possibly, but then it's disrupted by the middle braces. I don't know. These are just some ideas that I'm thinking off the bat, what you can kind of like tuck away behind there possibly. Similar to the other heavy duty rack I have, they have flat feet for this rack, and they do have a little hole so you can bolt this whole shelf to the floor. So that's pretty cool. I decided I'm not going to put any pads or anything under these heavy duty racks. Under my original Husky rack shelf, I had put felt pads, and I thought this was a good idea, but the issue is that the stand is just so heavy, it actually compresses the felt, and I'm worried that there's an uneven distribution of pressure on the bottom of the feet. I'm going to try to explain this a little better on the whiteboard. So what happened was, so if this is my shelf leg, the sheer weight of the shelf originally on a little felt pad, you won't really notice anything the first few days. But as you're putting water in tanks, that felt pad is going to start getting pushed down by the leg of the shelf, because just the weight is just so much. So what happened was the weight pushed down on the felt pad, and then you're left with these raised edges here at the corners. And I was worried that these are pushing in, or more like probably pushing like downwards and across. And I didn't want to compromise the weight on the feet of the shelf, or at the base of the shelf. So that's why I didn't use any felt pads or anything. I usually use those for muscle racks. Anyways, long-winded explanation. Let's get back to the video. For setting up this rack, it was pretty simple because, or I guess let me point here. These two beams or posts, they are connected by, you know, this middle one and this top one there. So those come in the box already pre-assembled. It's just one unit there. So the only thing you really have to do is put on these horizontal shelf brackets. And doing this myself as like a 5-foot tall person, it was a little bit of a struggle. It wasn't as easy to put together as the Husky brand, and I think that's because the Husky brand, this shape where the holes are supposed to slide in and fit together, gives you a little more room to work with. These ones here, the holes at the top are smaller, so it's a little more finagling of trying to get everything to settle correctly. Maybe another point, if you're a weakling like me, is that it's going to be a little hard to squish these two together to get it into the hole, and then, you know, basically put in these brackets. I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but that does take a little bit of strength. They do also recommend using a mallet to kind of help push these things down as far as they can go. So that is what I did. I just got a rubber mallet and like pushed the shelf bracket things down. I think anybody could set up this rack more or less by themselves. If you had 2 people, it would be even faster. Something that didn't happen to me last time, but you know, this happens. And I'm talking about metal splinters. I don't know how well you could see this, but this is jaggedy here. It's rough. And these little bits can come out. So I don't want to mess with it too much. I noticed that it's here, kind of right where you grab the rack when you're like picking it up. It was just on this middle bracket from my recollection of when I put this together. But yeah, you got to be careful when you set up these metal racks, because you can get metal splinters, and that is definitely not fun. But that is kind of something that happens with all types of racks. So this was the Gladiator. I think it was just a manufacturing mistake, because most of the rack did not have those jaggedy metal bits. But it happens. Like this one, I don't think had a metal splinter section or a scratchy section, but definitely for these kind of cheaper muscle racks, they do occasionally also have metal splinters. So yeah, just be careful. Well, we are back in the fish room. Things are looking a little different. I'm editing this video right now, and I realized I missed something that was pretty vital. So it's easier to see with the light, I think. You can see this right there. Let me zoom in. This is a little piece where the paint has like chipped off. And I don't think I did this. This could have just been it got jostled in the box. Maybe I scratched the paint off here. Like, this paint feels a little less sturdy than the other coating, and this is for the Husky rack. So this coating feels a little thinner, or maybe just is more fragile or prone to chipping. So this happened, and you can see the edge there is orange, so that is rusting where this paint has chipped off or just wasn't covered. So that's not great. I've had this rack now set up for okay, I don't remember, date will be down below. And yeah, I first noticed this one that's rusted, this little piece that's rusted. That was the first one I noticed, and honestly, like, the more I look, so like there's a little piece there, there's an edge here, it seems like it's more prone to be like closer to the edges. The more like careful you look, the worse it kind of gets. Or maybe not the worst, but like this probably happened when I was pushing in this shelf down and it scratched up there. So yay, that's great. Just notice this one is missing the paint here, but that one, it hasn't rusted yet. So yeah, that's it's not great. There is solutions for this. Like, I'm thinking I might just carefully put some paint, like some outdoor black paint, and just touch it up in the areas where it's missing some paint or where the paint is scratched off. But the good news is that if you do spill water droplets on here, it's not too big of a deal. Like, this whole rack, the water is a little more saltier than my normal tap water. So this is a TDS of 400 to 500, and you can see there is some like salt built up. So with my saliva, the finger, that just rubs right off. There is no damage to the rack there. So this coating is good. Like, it's waterproof coating. Yeah, you can see all my little drips of water that I missed when I clean up. I try to clean up as much as I can, but yeah, a few drips here and there isn't gonna harm the rack from my time using this rack so far. But missing some coating in some sections, or some of the paint coating, that is that's not great. For the Gladiator rack, this paint is really, really thick. I don't know what kind of paint this is, but you can see it's like a textured metal paint. And this one I've obviously had set up for a few months less than the Husky, but so far I haven't noticed any like huge difference. Like, maybe here, is that like, oh no, that's just a piece of dirt, probably duckweed. Is this coating? Nope, that's just duckweed also. Is this coating missing? Oh wait, hold on. Okay, this one also has a little bit of metal coating missing right here. It's like abrasive right there, rather than the rest of this is like smooth. Even though it's bumpy, it's smooth. Right there, it's like scratchy. So that is definitely like missing some coating right there. But it's really hard to tell, honestly, because of the black and silver pattern on here. Anyways, so I guess there's no like foolproof way. It could also be just shipping, you know, how they go to the store. If you drop a few pieces when assembling them or scratch a few pieces, you know, take it as you will. Alrighty, that is everything about the Gladiator rack. That is 60 inches by 18 inches by 72 inches tall. So hopefully this helps you guys out a little bit if you guys are deciding on if you want the Gladiator versus the Husky, or maybe Gladiator just has the right size for your room like it is for me, and that's how I ended up with a Husky and a Gladiator. But We gotta make every inch of the room count for fish, right? Anyways, I will see you guys later. Bye.